Deepti Karan joins me on the set to take a look at what the papers have been saying today. Hi, Deepti.
Hi, Jeannie.
So we're going to start with reaction to that political situation in Algeria with that surprise announcement from President Bouteflika not to run for a fifth term.
That's right. He's renounced running for a fifth term, but he's vowing to stay in power for the moment at least and hasn't announced a date for new elections yet. You'd be hard-pressed to find coverage of this situation in the English language papers. We've been following this situation from the Algerian and French point of view for well over a week now, but the website Vox, the American website, has put together a pretty good explainer in English of the situation. My only gripe is that in this article they do say, as you see there, that they call it a huge win for protesters. And if you look at what the Algerian press is saying, it's not so much that. In fact, you need to look no further than the front pages. Let's show you El Watan, Algerian daily there, that calls it the president's last scam, la dernière ruse. He's cancelled the presidential election, but staying in power without elections. So in a sense, people really haven't won yet. Liberté Algérie's cartoonist Dilem, meanwhile, has penned this very sardonic illustration, the ailing Bouteflika abandoning a fifth term, but in its place, he'll carry out a 10-year fourth term.
Here in France, obviously, there's a huge Algerian population. What kind of reaction has there been from the French papers?
Well, it's dominating the French papers today, Jeannie. Let's show you Libération, the left-leaning paper that calls it, or sees it rather, as the Algerian people's first victory, getting Bouteflika to pull his presidential bid. Le Parisien is wondering what happens now. The paper also hailing the first victory for what they call the Algerian Spring Uprising. But they do warn, I quote, that the long walk to democracy is just the beginning, because if the Algerian people managed to peacefully rock the regime to its core, they haven't brought it down to its knees yet.
Deepti, let's take a look now at the situation in Israel, where the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stirred a storm with his comments about Arab Israelis.
So this scandal took place in the weekend. Israeli actress and TV host Rotem Sela posted on social media that Israel is a country of all its citizens. She was reacting to a debate around the role of Arab parties in the upcoming April elections in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu then waded into that on Sunday, saying that while Arabs have full equal rights, the state of Israel, I quote, belongs to the Jewish people alone. It drew, as you can imagine, sharp backlash, notably from the Israeli president, who called Netanyahu's comments completely unacceptable, reiterating, I quote, that at the polls, all of us are equal.
What kind of reaction have you found to this in the opinion papers?
Well, there's a pretty damning article from the Times of Israel that notes what it calls a deterioration of Netanyahu's political leadership. The writer here calling his comments racist and reminding us all of the contribution of Arabs to Israel. Netanyahu should apologize, the writer says, but his ego most likely will not allow him to. Meanwhile, the editors at The Guardian have called it Netanyahu's latest act of, quote, cynical bigotry. The Prime Minister has debased his office again, The Guardian deploring what it calls an awful turn to the far right for support in these elections.
We're going to talk now about an anniversary today. The World Wide Web turns 30 years old today, but from comments made by its founder, Sir Tim Berners-Lee, it's not much of a celebration.
No, he's actually given us some very dark thoughts on the 30th anniversary of the World Wide Web, which, by the way, is different to the internet. Berners-Lee opted 30 years ago for what he calls watchful negligence, deciding to keep his invention free, open to all, and this is essentially what allowed the web to become what the Financial Times calls an extraordinary playground for human ingenuity. But the Financial Times notes it's also fallen under the influence of a bad crowd manipulated by authoritarian regimes, giant corporations, cyber criminals, hackers, and the likes. Now, on the web's 30th birthday, Berners-Lee has urged people to be more watchful and less negligent. Also, what's interesting is, many of us have only ever known the internet, but there is a good part of the population that remembers life, at least before we had the World Wide Web. This is what this website from New Zealand is looking at. Without the World Wide Web, we'd probably be having more conversations, human conversations. We wouldn't be as surveyed, tracked, and followed as we are right now. On the other hand, influencer wouldn't actually be a job. You'd have to leave your house to go shopping. And without the ability to self-diagnose, we'd probably not all be convincing ourselves that we're dying of a terminal illness when in reality we just have a common cold.
That's certainly true. All right, one thing that the web has given rise to, of course, are online challenges. Now, online challenges can be harmful at times. Some of them are just dumb, but you've actually found one that's actually quite good.
That's right. And it's so good because it comes after the very, very questionable cheese challenge. I don't know if you heard about that.
With the babies.
With the babies. That consisted of parents throwing cheese slices at their kids. Then the Tide Pod one where teenagers were swallowing laundry detergent pods. Well, the new one is trash tag. It's called the Trash Tag Challenge. It started with one guy telling, quote, bored teenagers to pose in before and after photos of places that needed cleaning. Cue now what's been loads of posts by people, albeit proudly bragging about cleaning up the environment, feeding perfectly into the whole online narcissism thing, but at least this time for a good cause, cleaning up beaches, forests, and roads.
That deserves to go viral. Hashtag trash tag. Thank you for that, Deepti and Deepti Laurent there with that look at the papers today. Thanks to you for watching as well. Don't forget, if you want to get a closer look at the press review, you can get it on our website, the address france24.com.